Hi, Carolyn. Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today about mystery, death, initiation, sexuality, existential kink, and all the amazing esoteric practices that you work with and I work with as well. So welcome to our virtual show.
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah, it is wonderful to be talking with you. I love we have a similar lineage of orgasmic magic, and it's what needs to spread in the world. So
isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Well, I would love to hear from you. I know you have this amazing program coming up, and I would love to hear from you a little bit about what you're cooking up.
Yeah, sure. So the thing that I'm offering right now is called Sleepover Mystery School. And it is part naughty teenage slumber party,
Amazing.
Part epic ancient ritual, big doses of guided self-stroking sex magic, existential kink, dance party. We're going to be playing truth or dare, spin the bottle. It's so cool. So it's 4 live in-person immersions that are happening basically in Miami and Pittsburgh, starting in January 2022. So it's a 9-month program. First one is in Miami in January. And we also are bringing in Luis Mojica, who is an amazing somatic therapist. He's going to be helping people go deeper with their EK and sex magic through integrating trauma and grief and moving through it.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's very much connected to these notions of initiation. And you were just mentioning to me about the deep initiations that you've been on lately. I would love to hear about your experiences.
Yeah, I would love to share it with you. Thank you. First of all, it sounds so fun. I would love to come. I would love to. I would love to.
I mean, that's what it's for. It's like for people who are just like ready to fucking party weird.
Totally. I'm in. I would love to share with you I've really been kind of in the underworld of Inanna and like finding the treasures in the mud. My partner and I decided to move in together in July and ended up in New Jersey in this house that then flooded with the hurricane, and there was mold and like huge money loss and like just challenges all over the place. And then we managed to move to this amazing like apartment in the sky. And then we went to Mexico to teach 2 retreats and ended up having a miscarriage, ended up getting COVID, ended up having to leave. I had to leave early last night because there was a hurricane, and I just got home, and he decided to stay there in the storm and like be his warrior self and like rise to the occasion. And so I've just been contemplating, like, as I expand, it seems like the depth is very present. Like it feels almost biblical in nature right now. And I'm sure I'm not alone. Like many people are going through these kind of extremes of initiation. And, I know you talk about existential kink, and I also work with like bringing the sexual energy into the pain body to help it transform. And so I'm just contemplating like how to, like that there's actually power there in the darkness, like power in the alchemy, power in the embracing what is no matter what with like full approval. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I wanted to chat with you because I know like your career and trajectory has expanded so much in the last few years. And I'm noticing for me, like as my work expands, it's like I have to hold the polarity of both the whole range of life. It seems to expand and increase as well. Do you have that experience also?
Oh, yes. And as I was listening to you talk about your experiences, Lauren, I was thinking like, oh my goodness, it's like so much like grief and loss and encounters with like the collective things like the pandemic and the climate change and the like, I was thinking like, I feel like as we, as magical people, spiritual people, like, it's sort of like I see a lot where we work through a lot of sort of maybe our own very personal stuff, and like we win, get success with that, and then it's like we get called upon to interact with and handle more and more of the collective pain that's moving through.
Yep, I completely, totally agree. It does seem like it's interesting because I did a plant medicine ceremony the second hurricane after the first one that flooded us. And I was downstairs in my shaman's like music studio, and like the water started to drip through the ceiling. And I went up to talk to him about it, and he was like, oh no, it's fine. That happens sometimes, you know? And I went back down, I was singing this song to myself, and the water was like, you now have special powers with water. Like you are actually sensing something that's true, you know, go back up and talk to him. So I went back up, and in fact, then he put plastic everywhere. And it kind of reminds me of like how when people get snake bites, like all of a sudden they have the medicine of the snake after the challenge. And I feel like for me, I get called upon by those I'm here to serve afterwards of like how to like increase capacity for the sacral emotional states that come with water, you know, now that water has greeted me in a new way and taken me down to show me, you know.
That's, oh yes, yes. Oh, just as you said that, I was like, oh, that's like that deep elemental initiation. I was like, did I have anything like that? And then I remembered, this is a funny thing. My membership, I'm changing the name of my membership program to Electric Yes.
Ooh, I love it.
And I was like, oh, I've been hit by lightning. I think I have electricity powers.
You've been struck by lightning?
I was struck by lightning. I was in the Amazon, pregnant with my daughter on a ayahuasca retreat in Peru. I was sitting on the floor of my little hut. An electric storm came through, and it went like, I saw the bolt coming through like the wiring into the light switch on the wall. And I was like, well, I guess today is a good day to die. But there was a like a plastic broom handle leaning against the light switch, and it went down into the broom handle into the floor. So the charge went into the floor, and then I felt it come up through me. It was like the biggest static electricity jolt you've ever felt. And for a minute, it hurt really bad, and I thought I was dying.
Oh my God.
And then I was completely fine. Baby was completely fine. And yeah, that happened.
Wow. Crazy. And now you're about to help infuse so much electricity into everyone who's coming to the mystery school.
Yes, ma'am. And I was just thinking too about like life gives us these spontaneous initiations, right? And then like ritual, like, and mystery school, I feel like part of the value of that is it's like these formal initiations help give context and preparation and integration and like precognitive, like it sends waves into the past and the future that like coagulates the new consciousness that we're moving into.
Totally. When you say that, it reminds me, Omar Pani is a good dear friend of mine, and I worked with him for years, and I recognized that like I had this unconscious masochism that was playing out in my life where like I kept attracting things to kind of give me a smack. And then I recognized, oh, when I actually go do scenes, or I go consciously choose to put myself in submission and surrender and get off on that, my life goes swimmingly because it's a conscious choice. And it reminds me of that, like when you teach ritual and the art and the craft of alchemy, the person or you understands like the formula of this is what happens when you go down and open into orgasm, or this is what happens when you willingly submit because you're conscious that, oh, I'm choosing that. That feels great to me. This is what I want, rather than unconsciously putting yourself into life ritual.
Yeah. This is something that I think about all the time. Like the underworld journey, like the heroine's journey. Like you're just like going about your business, and then one day you just like get sucked up in a tornado, or you fall down a rabbit hole, and you're like, what's going on here? And you gotta like figure your way through it, and how different it is from like the hero's journey, where like you set out on a quest and you know, it's just like it's completely topsy-turvy. And like you were talking about Inanna, like, and that descent into death, like something that I've been pondering as I organize this mystery school is the way that pretty much all of the mystery schools of the ancient world, from the schools in Babylon, the Inanna, to Eleusis, to Egypt, all had this theme of a goddess gives up, or like a goddess experiences deep loss, loses her lover or loses her child, and has to go on a search down, 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 shedding her power, becoming really, really vulnerable, and searching and reuniting with her beloved. Like Inanna searches for Dumuzi, Isis searches for Osiris, Demeter searches for Persephone. And something that I've been thinking about lately is the way that like when we incarnate into this life, right? It's like, here we are in the great cosmic bliss. First of all, we're like in the soup, we are the goddess, we're in the mother matrix womb, right? And then we seemingly shed our omnipotent powers and we come down into this like very vulnerable human form. And we have this longing for love and connection and depth, and we go on this search for our beloved. And it's like, wow, we're all the goddess in the underworld, man. This is the underworld. It's right here.
Oh, totally. Heaven and hell, same place.
Same.
Right here. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And something that I've also been pondering, and that I know that your work is so deeply connected to, and like your experience, is really the way that sexual energy, sort of like sexual energy as a psychedelic medicine in and of itself, that when we with intention, like open it up, becomes a portal where we can interact with these elements from the larger unconscious part of ourselves, and like start moving and communicating and dancing with that.
Yeah, I the way I think about it too is like, you know, in the medicine wheel, it's like we've got mind, body, spirit, you know, heart, and then in the center is the sexual energy. It's the catalyst, you know, and so to harness and like open to, because well, also when we're talking about death and initiation and underworld, like it's so easy for humans to be like, let me put that over there and pretend it doesn't exist and shove it in the basement and deny its existence. And it's so courageous to like take this thing and then combine the catalytic energy with it so that it can change form, or you have new awareness or insight around your underworld pieces, you know. But that's a real brave act, because it requires like feeling it all, like all of it, you know?
Yes, the horror, the loss, the sadness, yes. And so something that I've been thinking about so much lately is how our whole modern culture, certainly in the US, and I think pretty much everywhere in the modern world, really, really conditions us to be terrified of loss and death, like as if it was the worst thing ever, and just like fucked up and wrong and shouldn't happen, and we should do anything in our power to make it not happen. And like we get into like these like these control like nutty town things, and how like pretty much everything that is poisoning the earth basically and depressing people is all connected to that like drive to control and that fear of death. And like we have to extract resources and hoard resources, and we have to control people and authoritarian laws. And I really feel like, and like just like connecting with you this morning and like feeling your like energy, I'm like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Because I feel like what's really happening right now on Earth is there's so many people who are coming online and being like, actually, we're sick of this control thing, and we would really rather surrender and open our hearts ecstatically to grief and loss and sex and wonder. And let's do that now. And I feel like, I feel like the world is actually going to change in beautiful ways faster than we can even know, because it's infectious. It's infectious for people to feel, right? That surrender.
Oh, completely. I love that. It's like, I want to just record that clip and like plaster it everywhere, because it is so true. It's like the solution, if there is a solution, is not to continue doing the same thing. It's like, what if we actually go down, and the feminine is manifestation, it's downward movement. What if we actually like go in and connect with earth and like let earth teach us and Mother Nature teach us about how life is, which is hurricanes and sunshine, it's like all of it. And I love that, because like, and it's connection. It's like you and I feeling each other. It's humanity. It's belonging. It's not, massive separation and isolation that is seemingly, so rampant right now.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, I feel like we've reached like an apex of like the separation psychosis. Like I have this whole thing where I feel like there's like kind of 3 stages of like humanity's evolution, right? Like for a while we were in this indigenous tribal thing. Everybody was like very close to the earth and in like sort of non-linear feminine dream time existence. And then like the conscious ego got really louder and stronger and into control freaking for the past like 3,000 patriarchal years. And now we've developed that reasoning, logical conscious mind to the point that we've created all this technology, all of this stuff. And the technology might be becoming conscious quite soon. And I think we're becoming conscious in a new way of like being able to unite these like scientific logical mind and the dreaming magical mind and coming into this like new form of human awareness. And it's certainly an interesting and difficult time to be alive in this transition.
Oh man, isn't that the truth? It's really, it does feel so biblical. Like my friend Rosie is an astrologer, and she was posting on Instagram yesterday. She's like, are we in crazy land? And I'm like, I think we are. And wow, like so many people like choosing to be like a co-creative part of their own universe, and like learning how to create life as they choose it and want it. And, and surrender is such a big part of that, because like my favorite Steve Jobs quote is like, you can't trace the dots forward, only backwards. Like we never know how each random choice we make lines up so that we are right here, right now in this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Which reminds me of something else that I've thought a lot about in connection with initiation. Just like, what is it initiation into? I feel like all initiation is like an expansion of the context that we conceived for ourselves, like coming out of being like completely hypnotized by our minds and our stories and our cultural programming, and like waking up into like, oh, I'm not just this body and this personality. I'm like this powerful, creative energy presence that's like running through. And I am eternal and immortal in that sense.
Yeah.
And like, how can I start aligning myself more with that and like less with like the fear about what's going to happen to this body and this personality?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're describing that, it makes me want to ask you, like, what made you decide to teach magic?
Yeah, great question. Well, it was pretty much a matter of not like being unable to really do anything else and be a functioning person. So like I got a PhD in English literature for the first 10 years of my adult life. I was basically like a teacher, a professor at the University of Pittsburgh. I taught a class called Reading the Soul of Poetry. And I gradually realized that academia was not the right place for me, that I was way too weird and everybody else didn't like me. And then I didn't really like them and the way they treated poetry, as if it was like a corpse to dissect instead of like a living alchemical catalyst, like medicine, but it is. So I struggled for a bit doing like freelance copywriting. I did like resumes for Coca-Cola executives who were apparently illiterate and couldn't make their own resumes. And and I started being like, I would just ask myself questions. I think I went through like The Artist's Way like 6 different times. I love that book, Julia Cameron. And I kept asking myself like, okay, well, what really does it light me up to do? And it really lights me up to throw weird magical parties. That is the essence of it. So I started doing that. And as I did that, I mean, it's sort of a long story with many twists and turns, but I came into being like, oh, okay, magic is real. You do things, you create a set, like a density. Could I briefly outline my little
please.
on magic? Yeah. The way that I understand magic is that it's active participation and synchronicity. And that we live in a poetic universe that is always rhyming and speaking to itself and us in all these interesting ways. And Carl Jung said that synchronicity happens in the presence of an active archetype. So if we do a ritual and we invoke a specific archetype by bringing in colors, sounds, scents, music, words, dance, sex, that's in alignment with that archetype, we activate that. And then we activate this whole like experience of synchronous rhyming and poetry that comes in connection to that. So I started out being very interested in just like, it's called low magic, which is a little bit insulting, but like results-based magic. Like, how do I magic up some money? How do I magic up a hot new lover? And I was like really focused on that for a long time. And then I magicked up a lover who became my husband, David, who was like, you know, there's also this thing called high magic, which is all about invoking connection with your larger self, also known as the holy guardian angel in the Western esoteric tradition. And I was like, so I got into that, and that shape, that's a very intense engine of synchronicity, is the invocation of the higher self, right? And existential kink, I found, is a way that really helps me, and seems to help a lot of folks, like get into an embodied experience of being able to give that divine embrace to whatever we encounter. So yeah, does that sort of answer the question?
Yeah. So was it that you discovered existential kink working in your life, and then like what compelled you to share it with other people?
Oh yeah, great question. So yeah, I came up with existential kink at a time when I was sort of just beginning to coach and having all of this like scarcity stuff going on with me. And I kept thinking about like all the law of attraction stuff. It's like, oh, you get what you desire. And then all of this psychology stuff I read in grad school about how you can have all these unconscious taboo desires. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, my mind tells me that I want a fuck ton of money. Yeah. I do not have a fuck ton of money. I do not have clients lining up to work with me. I was like, what if I have an unconscious desire for rejection and scarcity? And what if I just really let myself feel that and let myself feel the way that that desire is being perfectly fulfilled by my humiliating poverty? And just really just like stop trying to fight it. Just be like, this is actually what a part of me wants, and I'm just going to embrace it. And it changed my life so dramatically. Like I went from like kind of eking out an existence to like tens of $1,000s a month and living in Bali, like in 3 months. And I was like, what?
You're like, that's fast.
That's fast. I was like, and then I started applying it to other arenas of my life, like my fucked up love life, because I kept getting into like relationships with like crazy town, like abusive, controlling guys. And so then I was like, all right, I'm pretty sure that I hate being controlled, but maybe I love it. So I got off on that. And then I had the experience of connecting with my wonderful husband. And it was like, okay, this is something I got to tell other people about, because
totally. I love that. So the gift of it compelled you to share it.
Absolutely. And it, like, what's been fascinating for me is like, so I came up with EK before I got the Great Husband. And then when the Great Husband, David was like, you should get into like this deeper tradition of magic that's all about this invocation. I was like, okay. I started to do it. And then I realized the ways that they like completely connect in like this really, so like basically a major theme in Western Tantra Hermeticism is the reconciliation of opposites. Mm-hmm. Like think this thing and this thing, like one is way better than the other, but actually it's about getting to the equilibrated place of loving all of it. And I saw that EK sort of works specifically with the axis of pain and pleasure, right? Like finding the pleasure in pain, finding the pain and pleasure, ecstatically embracing all of it. And what's fascinating to me, if I could give another little intellectually spiel, is I noticed that there's this way, so in Hermeticism and in Jungian psychology, there's this huge focus on the 4 elements, mm-hmm. which correspond to the 4 functions of the psyche in Jungian terms. So there's water, air, earth, fire, right? So water, so earth is like the sensing function, water is the feeling function, air is the thinking function, fire is the creative, intuitive function. Mm-hmm. And it just like hit me in my brain one day, more in my whole body, that one of the things that makes EK really powerful for manifestation magic is it is directly about sensation, which is the earth function, the earth element. So if you want to change things on the earth plane really quickly, working at that level of sensation is like an equilibrating that, reconciling those opposites, opens things up in a big way. And then perhaps I get overly complex with it. Maybe not, I don't know. I just get fascinated by all of it, because then I started thinking about like, okay, well, what about the other elemental equilibrations? And so then there's this way that we have, for water, for the feeling function, I really think it's like good and evil. Like, what do we feel is good for us? What do we think is bad for us? And then with air, it's like thesis and antithesis. Like for every thought that we can express in language, the opposite thought is like equally as true, right? and like finding that out and balancing that. And then with fire, I really think it's like self and other, like, or self and divine, like mortal and immortal. And like Jesus did a great job of really bringing those together.
Totally.
and so like so I spent a lot of time like experimenting with like various magical practices in addition to existential kink that help me to balance all of the functions. So I use like ritual magic, like the lesser vanishing ritual of the pentagram and the middle pillar to do that. And yeah.
I love that. I have been really fascinated by the collapsing of polarities that seems to be working through me and the entire world at this time. Like, so many of my plant medicine journeys this year have been showing me like the beauty of death and like that, you know, the function of decay and decomposition is a part of life. And, you know, I had this one journey where I was like an eagle flying and the sun was shining on one wing. And it was like, oh, well, yeah, the shadow is there. Like there's the dark wing. You can't fly without both, you know, like there's no way. You have to embrace the polarities and the extremes and the opposites. And when you do that, you feel less crazy. At least I do. I feel less insane because I'm like, oh, right, this all exists at the same time. That's life. It's like when I'm hyper focused on the good or hyper focused on the bad, that's when like, it's like the eagle starts to fly downwards and spiral into the earth, you know, crashing. So I love what you're talking about, like to balance the extremes in all the elements, like mind, heart, you know, spirit and body, is where you have more creative capacity and adaptability. Like as a human, you have more options there.
And it can sound a little bit corny to say, but it really is all about like opening the heart, right? Like, because what can reconcile opposites? Love, man. Like love is the thing that does it.
Totally. The heart is a bridge to so many things. Yeah. Oh my God, this has been so fun. Tell me, like, who are your ideal people to come to mystery school?
Yes, I shall tell you. So basically, like the bad kids playing hooky in the alley behind the
smoking pot and making
smoking cigarettes, being bad, listening to dirty music.
Totally.
You're making out. Like those are the people that I want. So misfits, weirdos, tantrikas, people who are like really just hungry, like who have tons of depth and tons, like I'm feeling like probably we'll have like 50% people who are like already like have super magical lives going on, like yourself, and maybe 50% of people who are like, I don't know why, but I've been called here. Show me some things.
My body says.
Yeah, and I feel like so basically people who are hungry for a place where they can experience deep celebration and deep encouragement of this way of looking at the world that is so much more sane and so much more sexy, that involves heart open valuing of all of it.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, awesome. I can't wait to come play in that. Yeah. Oh my God, so good. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you would like to say as we close? Just any more musings on magic that feel present for you?
Wow. I think a little nugget that I'd like to toss out there for folks pondering this is that a really powerful thing to do can be focusing on just getting really devoted to the energy of magic itself. So whatever feels like magic to you, whatever makes you be like, God damn, that's magical. Like inviting that energy into your body more and just communicating with it and asking it to teach you and suggest to you what moves to make is a really deep thing. Sometimes I just pray to magic because I'm like, I don't know, I could pray to this God, I could pray to that God. think I'll just pray to magic. And so that's a suggestion. And yeah, I'll share with you the link to the Sleepover Mystery School page. Yeah. Also, I have this fun thing that I'm doing with one of my dear best friends, Layla Bernard. We're doing a podcast called the Sleepover Podcast. Ooh. So if folks want to hear more of my mystical monologues, dialogues, they can search for the Sleepover Podcast. It's on Spotify and iTunes and everything. There's also a link to it in my Instagram bio. Folks can go to my website and join my email list, and they will get the first 3 chapters of Existential Kink, and also like announcements about all of my programs. My membership is becoming this thing called the Electric Yes. I love it. About EK, and I think that's what I got.
Awesome. I'll get all your links and I'll post it with this. I'll probably share it on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll tag you, and I'll also send you the video as well if you want to use it for anything. It was truly my pleasure to chat with you today and muse on magic and alchemy and initiation and sexuality and all the good things going on in our lives.
Thank you, Lauren. Likewise.
Thank you. Big love. Bye.